What's hitting my?
Let's freaking go. Starting off this live stream with a bang, the Z baby. And hey, Z looks so good on HD.
But look, you can't see your eyes.
Huh?
Hi, Mama. Get daddy. Oh,
So
Mama.
we have a lot we're going to get to tonight. Shout out to Leonard. I'm sending him an autographed Jamarcus
I got you,
Russell
baby.
card
Right here.
with this t-shirt purchase.
Look
I'm
at
kidding,
the
Leonard.
Z.
I got you, man, on the J. Russ Auto. And, of course, we're going to talk about hopefully the next Jamarcus Russell, Matt Flynn, Joe Burrow. Dante Moore made a visit to Tiger Stadium today for a recruiting visit, the 5-star quarterback out of Michigan. And obviously the poll question is pretty simple. A lot of you do cover recruiting, and a lot of you do look towards the future. Is Dante Moore your number one quarterback for the class of 2023? Some of you might be Arch Manning fans, and Arch Manning actually had a better day than Dante Moore as Newman defeated Lafayette Christian Academy in the state championship basketball game for that division. And it's interesting because LCA has been the team that has knocked Arch Manning out of the playoffs the last 2 years in football. So obviously we have a lot to get to as far as junior day. There were so many different visitors. They also had a 4-star quarterback, DJ Lagway, an amazing quarterback out of the state of Texas. Now, I make it it's without saying we're competing against a live LSU baseball game and a lot of LSU basketball that happened over the past 48 hours. Whether it be Kim Mulkey and the Tigers losing early. Also, the LSU basketball team finding a way to get it done. Buck Fama, as you guys could see with the thumbnail for tonight. We say hi to Mick. We say hi to Leonard. Leonard, shoot me a DM. I'll take care of you. Roger Malachi Nelson is his QB1 in 2023. I actually agree with Pegasus here. Nico is my number one quarterback, and we'll talk more about him. LSU has offered. It's just going to be very unlikely. And, hey, this is who we're actually going to meet at the wedding we're going to in a few weeks. Skipper actually lives in Pass Christian, Mississippi.
Oh my God.
So we're going to go say hi to him.
Yes.
Chris, what's good to see you. Well, you might have to come say hi to us. We're going to be super busy. I'm in a wedding. But he's going to make time for us. I hope so, Skipper. One of our top PHL contributors. What's up, Big Al is in the building.
Hey!
So,
and Z baby. Everybody say hey to Z baby.
So Lucky Logan actually joined the t-shirt club.
Nice.
And he joined an elite company, the 4X t-shirt club.
Holla.
Let's go, RSX. The man of the hour. Chris, you know, I love you. Mick is always in here. Mick, your attendance is 100%.
What up, Mick? I love that name so much.
Yeah, Leonard, you know, I got you, man. I'll send some stuff to the kiddos as well. Let's see. Tried to watch the LSU versus Texas baseball game on YouTube, but scammers got to be scammers, so it's ruined. LSU Tiger pajamas. Look at that. North Shore is in the house. Yeah, let me talk a little bit about media rights. I know that's kind of weird to talk about, but yes, the baseball game has been a difficult watch for a lot of you, which is why you should tune in to this channel. So I know, once again, we haven't even started spring football yet. This is the deadest of dead LSU period. So kind of like our last live stream on Thursday, we're just going to be an open book tonight. So anything you guys want to talk about, you feel free to reach out and we'll discuss it when it comes to LSU football. Now, the first thing I'll say is, look, it's junior day. It's obviously very early in the recruiting process. Obviously, as many of you saw, there's a lot of football players that play basketball, and they're still playing in state tournament basketball games. So once again, if you go down like a junior day list, whether it be on 247 or Rivals or whatever, don't get too bummed if a player decided to not visit. Right. There is apparently a really good defensive lineman who goes to IMG. He was supposed to come to the junior day today, and he is based in Tallahassee, and he didn't make it. So once again, Tallahassee. Yeah, cool stuff, Skip.
Look, they can see Z Baby's eyes now.
Look at that Z baby.
Z Baby.
But yeah, I wouldn't get too carried away just from one junior weekend where, there's so much going on, right? SMC,
Oh,
his
thank you.
His dog's name is Zoe.
Oh, Zoe, I love it.
Hey, Mick. Hey, Skipper.
Tommy.
So as far as the visitor list, Trey Holly was in town. That's one of the more popular players on this channel. The lone LSU commit, Amarion Miller, was there. Shelton Sampson.
We'll come back when we get more folks in.
My number one player in the state of Louisiana is Shelton Sampson. Cole Dellinger, Gary Dellinger's younger brother, was there. Bryson Sanders, a really good four-star offensive lineman out of Tennessee. Curly Reed, a defensive back I like a lot out of Lake Charles, is also there. Hey, Tommy. Big King of Beach 707 tournament in SoCal this weekend with top recruits. Yeah, Roger. I've got to say this as far as, just the overall recruiting cycle. I just don't get too carried away with junior days, right? Once again, it's just a recruiting thing. I'd actually prefer them to be smaller simply because you get more one-on-one time with recruits. And, I think it's actually a good thing that you're not overloaded with hundreds of recruits when you have a brand new staff trying to set their footing with how they want to recruit, who they want to target, and so on and so on. Now, obviously, it's very interesting. First thing here, I'll go to Kyle's comment here. Once again, if you super chat, I'll go straight to your question. They dropped Shelton Sampson. Shelton Sampson down to 85th in the rankings. Yeah, don't get too carried away with that. I really do think he's good. Reminds me a little bit of a Devonta Smith. But what I would say, though, is obviously the showstopper recruit that visited LSU this weekend was Dante Moore, right? Anytime you get a 5-star quarterback on campus, it's a pretty big freaking deal. Now, as many of you know, the last 5-star out-of-state quarterback to sign with LSU never actually played quarterback at LSU. That was Russell Shepard, whose rookie card is actually right here. So, I've got to say, as far as this is concerned, LSU has never really landed the blue chip 5-star out-of-state quarterback. They just haven't. But that could change here with the brand new staff. I know Dante Moore is very interested in Notre Dame, and obviously there's going to be a ton of pressure for him to go to Michigan. But LSU is very much in this, and LSU was recruiting Dante Moore with the old regime, and for him to still decide to come visit with a brand new regime, brand new coaching staff. I mean, even pre-Coach Davis getting to LSU, the Tigers were recruiting Dante Moore. With a brand new staff, Dante Moore is still very interested in coming to LSU. Now, will it happen? More than likely, just based on history, it won't. But look, Dante Moore is the Brian Kelly type of quarterback. Brian Kelly is very risk-averse with his style of football. Dante Moore threw for the fewest interceptions out of any of the quarterbacks you see ranked. He only had 3 last year. He was Gatorade Player of the Year. Also, when you look at his stats, you have to keep in mind 2 of his games this year were forfeits. So on a per-game basis, his numbers were just as good as any of the quarterbacks. He averaged roughly 250 yards per game. And as many of you saw this offseason, we did a deep dive on high school quarterback football statistics. You want an elite quarterback to be throwing for around 200 yards per game. No less than that. If they throw for less than that, that is a little bit of a red flag to me, but 250 is actually really, really good. That's what Nico throws for per game. Malachi Nelson, who was just mentioned a minute ago, he throws for about 290 per game, but his receivers are also way better than the other quarterbacks. His receivers are 5 stars. So you look deeper at Moore's profile. Just me doing a very novice film study on Dante Moore is he's not going to blow you away. Like, you're not going to watch his tape and be like, holy freaking crap. It's not going to look like a Michael Vick joystick type of tape. His arm is not just going to blow you away. It's not a bazooka. He doesn't really run all that much. So it's not going to be the most aesthetically pleasing highlight film you'll watch. It's also, if you just go on Huddle, it's shot at kind of a weird angle. But still, it's really good. Like, I'll say this. He reminds me a lot of Byron Leftwich, for those that remembered Byron at Marshall. Very accurate thrower, very good in the pocket. He's a very mature quarterback who apparently has a really strong work ethic. So, he's polished, and you can see it just with his mechanics. They're actually really, really good. Once again, I'm not a all-out mechanics expert, but when it comes to ball placement, running an RPO offense, and reading a defense, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. But yeah, I've read a little bit on 3 that they're docking him because he's not this amazing athlete. So what? Most quarterbacks in the NFL aren't Josh Allen. Most quarterbacks in the NFL aren't Justin Herbert, right? There's a lot of Tom Brady's, and there's a lot of Kirk Cousins and Derek Carrs out there. And, Joe Burrow is a really, really good athlete. So I wouldn't put Joe there, but Joe doesn't have a cannon, and he's not the absolute fastest guy in the world, but he gets the job done as well. So you don't have to, run a 4.5, and you don't have to, throw the ball from one hash to the other on a complete line. But that's the thing. I think Dante does have a really good arm. But still, if I were ranking the quarterbacks in the class of 2023, I gotta shout out Pegasus. I still think the Nico kid is the best quarterback in the class of 2023. Not sold totally on Malachi Nelson. Not sold totally on Arch Manning. They're obviously really, really good quarterbacks, but if I were drafting a quarterback right now, I'm taking Nico. I am. There you go, Brian. Brian wanted to talk a little bit of Tackett Curtis. Everyone welcome Brian back to the chat, holding it down in a 337. So, yeah, we'll talk some Tackett Curtis here in just a second. But, yeah, I'm fired up tonight. We got a real shot at more Manning Nelson. You don't have a shot at Nelson. That's not going to happen. Arch Manning, yeah, you do. But I would say right now, Dante Moore is going to be your best, your best guess. You can tell Brian is making his arrival or his return, because you had the camera for a little bit now. I'm just kidding. Good to have you back, Brian. Aaron, Aaron had to change his avatar to the high school days, right? So there you go. But yeah, I'm a Nico guy. Once again, I've said this a few times now. His body is built like Kevin Durant. It looks different, but he can play. If you watch him, it looks like that ball is humming out of his hands. He's got a real rifle. I like his arm the best. He's got some dual threat to him as well. And I think, his frame, it's just going to be the big thing, right? Give that kid the best freaking flak jacket on the planet and he'll be fine. Kid can play. He can really fling it. I'll say this. I would take him over Cade Klubnik, who I have as my number 1 quarterback for 2022. And I would take him over Walker. I would. But I will say this. Obviously, want to and where you want to be is a big deal as well. So if you factor that in as well, I would take Walker Howard over Nico. And if I were to rank the quarterbacks now, if let's just say tabula rasa, clean slate, you have to rank these quarterbacks from 2022 to 2023, I would put Nico 1, I would put Klubnik 2, Walker Howard 3, and then Nelson or Manning 4. So we'll see. He is a real deal. Reminds me of a slim Jamarcus Russell. Yeah, I mean, Nico's arm is special. It's special. Yeah, Chris, keep me up to date on the baseball game. Brian wants to get into some Tackett Curtis discourse here. So, Kyle, what do you mean by it could be a tough conversation? Some of the conversation is off-field conversation. Some of it is on-field conversation, right? I know a lot of you aren't thrilled with how his recruitment has been up to this point. There's been a change of staff, right? It's I really do mean this. There's no way Brian Kelly at this point could have watched all the film of all the 2023 players and really have a grasp on who they are, right? Now, as Kyle mentioned a minute ago, he knows who Dante Moore is because they were recruiting him at Notre Dame, right? And they were probably recruiting a lot of these kids in Louisiana. But he's still there. Like Brian Kelly just got to campus, right? There's a lot of crap he's got to do. So we'll see. We beat Alabama today. There you go. Anytime you beat Alabama, it's a good day. But yeah, once again, Super Chat, Venmo, Cash App is wide open. We'll go to your topic. If not, I'll just keep talking about quarterbacks here. Also talk about some other kids in 2023 to keep an eye out for. The safety out of New Iberia looks to be the real deal. Derek Williams. Sheldon Sampson I like a lot. Those are probably my two favorite players in the state for 2023, taking out, the value of the position of quarterback. Also something very interesting about 2023 is the young man, the number 2 running back in the state, Jackson, was offered today by Alabama. So Bama is starting to really sink their teeth into the state of Louisiana, trying to get all our skill guys. It was Caleb Jackson, the running back out of Liberty Magnet, who was actually rated higher, 40 slots higher than Trey Holly, but only 2 slots more on the running back position. Let's go to Pegasus question. So a lot of you are asking about Tackett Curtis, okay? Now, don't get it twisted. I want him to go to LSU. He is a headhunter for Manny, Louisiana. Now, let's give a good, honest evaluation. None of what I say is personal. I try and be as honest as I possibly can. I will say this. If somebody super chats, I will talk about the guy that is shooting up my board right now on 2020 on the class of 2023. Had a good conversation today with Blake about him and a few people in North Louisiana that I trust. And for those that follow Louisiana high school football closely, you know that North Louisiana and South Louisiana, things are different, right? You do play each other, obviously, in the playoffs and in non-conference, but, it is different. But there is one guy in 2023 who is really starting to impress me. And I didn't think I would like him as much as I do now. But I'll wait till the first super chat, and then we'll get to him in just a second. Now, let's talk a little bit about Tackett Curtis. Brian is back, and he wants to hear about Tackett Curtis. Tackett Curtis coach, his uncle is not crazy about LSU and the way they recruit Manning kids. Also, Blake Baker did a bad job of staying in touch with Tack. The emphasis needs to feel wanted in interviews. Okay. First thing is this. I always throw up a red flag. You keep hearing about, well, so-and-so didn't keep in the best contact with 5-star recruit X or whoever it may be, high level 4-star recruit. Yeah, they're busy. Your position coach is coaching guys that are currently on the team, right? Now, could LSU have done better keeping in touch with Tackett Curtis up to this point? Maybe, but Blake Baker was kind of busy trying to fix his linebacker room. And I think in Blake Baker's defense, he was one of the best linebacker coaches in the country last year. So if I was a recruit, I would say, well, I'm not getting the best vibes, but he's busy. Okay. And let's see here. Tackett's family members are season ticket holders. And his brother was Mike the Tiger a few years ago. Very interesting. Oh, that's cool, Big Al. Huh? LSU Ole Miss. That's cool. But what I would say is, yes, Tackett Curtis is a really good football player. Now, as far as his high school evaluation is concerned, the way they use him at Manny, Louisiana is not translatable to the next level. It's just not, right? Now, I'm not criticizing how they use them because it's winning them a lot of games. And what they do is they put him at safety and they just tell him to run downhill against an option offense and, see where the ball is going and just chase him down because, he's the best athlete on the field. And he just destroys people. It's a pretty fun highlight tape if you like to watch hard hitting. And that's great, right? Especially if we were playing this game the way that it was played in the 90s or in the 2000s where everybody was running the football and running run-based offenses. The issue, though, is Tackett Curtis, number one, is not a safety. And number two, you can't do that at the next level. So, that's the first thing. It's kind of hard to watch the tape and say, well, you're not really going to be able to do that. Now, it does show that he could be a vicious special teamer, and you can also see the linebacker instincts when you watch him play. But, that's the first thing, it's kind of tough to do an evaluation when it's like that, right? And there's nothing wrong about that. Once again, you got to win high school football games. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, as far as being this early and all the new coaches being in where they are now and Manny, Louisiana, not ever having kids that LSU wanted to recruit and them feeling overlooked, that's perfectly fine. But there is a brand new staff. And if you really want to go to LSU, they're going to have an open line of communication if they really want you. So once again, Tackett Curtis, really good player. You guys send me his highlight tape all the time. Brian Thomas, the viewer, not the wide receiver, who you guys saw just a minute ago, sent me his highlight tape, and I've seen it plenty of times now. And he's really good. Tackett Curtis is a really good football player. Obviously, really want him to be in this class, but you can't do that, right? You just can't. Now, once again, I'll say this. It's entertaining as you know what to watch that. Just old school, put your best athlete at safety and let him just mow anybody down. You're absolutely right. His tape is hard to evaluate. He's all over the field. I've seen him play QB for Manny too. But that's the thing, Kyle. You can't like if you watch it, you could see that he's a really good athlete, but at the same time, most high school kids have translatable tape. Like you could see them playing the position that they would be playing in college. Not quite the scheme that you would play, but there is not a single scheme in college football where you put your best athlete at safety and they just run downfield and tackle. So, he's a pretty long athlete though, right? So we'll see. Let's go to Tommy here. Technically, football fields are humped, so rain will drain off of them. Tommy going full groundskeeper here tonight. I gotta love that. Huh? Huh? You know what is funny? It's true. If you go to an actual high school football field, you could see it kind of slope down. Now, what's interesting is if you go to a small enough town where they don't have uh, the absolute best groundskeeper, what you can do is watch a muddy game. And I don't think type Y for yes, type in for no in the chat. Have you ever been to a muddy football game? I mean, like just a slobber knocker. Huh? 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 It's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. It's great. Like it's that you can't actually play real football on there though. That's the downside. Uh, let's see what photo do I want to put up here? I got to shout out my guy Tommy. Here he is right here rocking the PHL merch. There's Danny. Mick can actually live his life now. There's Tommy right there. I love it, man. Danny's been there. Huh? Once again, I still have this photo right here. I love this one. It's one of my favorite ones. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. And if this just happens to be your first time watching, we just had this guy on the channel. Shout out to Justin Vincent. Let's see. What if the runner is running upfield? Well, there are some high school stadiums where you are running upfield. Top of the fifth, 3 up, 3 down. It's all good, Danny. I know Danny's a diehard baseball fan. Also saw on Twitter my girl Danny was cooking some shrimp fettuccine for the hubby and the kiddos tonight. And she did not provide any fettuccine to Mick, to Lucky Logan. Tommy just had a birthday, Danny. We would have loved some shrimp fettuccine. Love it. Alfredo sauce from scratch. I love it. Let's go. This is so random. So they stopped breaking QB's dual threat and pocket passer because all QBs run now. But how to determine if a player is an athlete or not? Yeah. So let's talk about that. So over the past few years, 247 got rid of the dual threat and pro style thing because they were just off on too many. I think Trevor Lawrence was labeled as a pro style quarterback when, he's one of the best dual threat quarterbacks. Now, he does do most of his damage from the pocket, but he is a dual threat quarterback. He's not Michael Vick, but he's really freaking good. And, they would just be so off on some pro style and dual threat guys. I think they had Joe Burrow as a pro style guy too. And Joe Burrow's not a pro style quarterback, right? Now he is now. He doesn't run as much as he did in college or in high school. And most of his work is in the pocket. So I guess you could call that pro style. But, I just label them all quarterbacks, right? This is true too. Why can't an OL be an athlete if they play guard, tackle, and center? I don't know. I think honestly, Fitzgerald West should have been an athlete for sure because schools were recruiting him to play both sides of the football. Now, something that was very interesting is I'm hearing that Kendrick Law could be a defensive back at Alabama, and he was labeled an athlete. So it's very interesting. Dang, everybody's cooking shrimp. Danny's cooking shrimp. Tommy's cooking shrimp. Chris is cooking shrimp. Chris said probably around 9. That'll be plenty. All right. Drop your address in the chat, Chris, and we'll all be there in the morning. Don't do that, please. I would feel really bad if somebody actually did that. Man. Marion Miller was also here. Obviously, that's really good stuff. Now, what's up, normal guy? Good to see you. Now, type Y for yes, type in for no. Would you guys like to talk about the current LSU team? Obviously, we talked a lot of recruiting right now. Once again, a lot of relationships are being made by the staff. So, yeah, I'll talk about current stuff. A little bit later, I will talk about some baseball. Well, not baseball. I don't know enough about baseball. I'll talk about some basketball as well. Chris wants to go to current stuff. Kyle wants to go to current stuff. Big Al wants to go to some current stuff. Leonard with the lovely smiles. Look at that. Shout out all the super dads at PHL. Brandon wants to go to current stuff, so we will. So obviously, this is a question I get a lot, right? How does Brian Kelly view the quarterback room for right now? Now, do I think Brian Kelly looks at some potential transfer portal quarterbacks? I do. I do think, he'll keep his eye open. But at the same time, I just don't know if there's going to be a portal quarterback that wants to join a room where there's already 3 players. So we'll see. Now, outside of that, this is what I would say about Garrett Nussmeier. I'm getting a lot of Nuss questions. I got some during the last stream, and Danny brings up Nuss now. Look, the first thing is he is in a very interesting spot. So let's just say he competes in spring football and he doesn't decide to transfer. Well, he should just go all in and try and win this job now. I think the best thing for Garrett Nussmeier right now is to not think about the transfer portal at all. Just focus on winning this quarterback job now for 2 reasons. Number 1, you can actually win this quarterback job. Look, essentially, Miles Brennan has 3 starts and you have 1, right? The Arkansas game, he didn't technically start, but he was the guy, right? So as far as game experience is concerned, not that far off from Miles Brennan when it comes to truly meaningful snaps. Now, Miles, of course, has played more. He's more experienced. He's further along in his development. But still, if I'm Garrett Nussmeier, I'm just focusing in on trying to win this job. The second thing is you can actually kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I don't know if I'm using that phrase correct. Let's just say you do ball out, but you still don't win the job. Well, as a backup quarterback, there is extra value in being Miles Brennan's backup quarterback because of his high injury rate. Okay. 2 consecutive seasons with season-ending injuries. So if I'm Garrett Nussmeier, I am not worrying about the transfer portal at all. Even if you're a backup and you only play mop-up duty this entire season, you still have 3 years of eligibility. You can pack your bags and maybe get some good film out there from some garbage time snaps. And you can go to a lot of schools that would be very interested in his services. Now, as far as Walker Howard is concerned, I'm working on a lot of Walker Howard research right now. The likelihood that he starts next season is very slim. Now, as far as, Jaden Daniels or any other transfer portal quarterbacks, at this point, I just don't know. I do think Jaden Daniels would be interested in going to LSU. Look, you're an elite quarterback, and you take all these recruiting visits when Jaden Daniels was coming out of Arizona, right? Or wherever he was coming out of, I forgot, but he was, a top 100 4-star quarterback. and you could have gone anywhere you wanted to go, and you chose Arizona State. Whereas, as a elite quarterback, you can go to an LSU or a Penn State or, one of these college football powerhouses, and, you decide to still go to Arizona State, where it's been a mess. So there might be a piece of Jane Daniels that says, look, LSU's quarterback is far from room is far from a certain thing, and I want to go play major Power 5 college football at the Blue Blood. I think that would be something that would interest him. And by the way, there's not going to be a receiver you've thrown to outside of maybe N'Keal Harry that was N'Keal Harry there? I don't remember. But Brandon Ayuk was there. Still, LSU's wide receiver room is going to be way deeper than any other wide receiver room you've ever gotten to work with. So we'll see. Dane Daniels. This is interesting. Pegasus says, if I'm BK, I want a QB I know can hold the house together while I build a foundation for my program. Daniels would be the only guy could play high D1 ball for a season. Very interesting. Yeah, Danny, here's how I feel about the bowl game thing. I would have played him, and I would have told him to play. I don't know all the forces that were at B there. It would have been better for him to play. It would have. But I don't put too much blame on him. It was such a messy situation. I don't know too many quarterbacks gung ho about leading a 39-man roster. So we'll see. This was interesting. Yeah, when Jane Daniels went there, wasn't a clear-cut job opportunity for him. Tracy and Tommy have the same avatar. Tracy's is a little bit more zoomed out. Tommy's is a little bit more zoomed in. He is no better than Miles. Ooh, Miles. Interesting. Rag 'em. I agree with this, Danny. I do. Tracy, good to see you. Let's see here. Look at that. Don't forget, people, if you are watching on the big screen, like if you are watching on a TV, it's kind of hard to like and subscribe and all that stuff. It's perfectly fine. But if you are watching on your phone, tablet, and all that stuff, don't forget to hit the like button, share this video. And I like to say this every live stream. This is the most important thing you can do. Okay. Outside of super chatting, the most important thing you can do. I'm looking at you right now. Okay. The most important thing. Think of that diehard LSU football fan. Think of him. Okay. Send this video or just the channel to a diehard LSU football fan. Right. And tell them to join the PHL community, right? Working on a lot of like normal videos for next week. I know we've only done live streams this week. Working on a few deep dives right now. Some 2023 recruiting. Most of it, though, is Walker Howard stuff. Already started editing some of the Walker Howard stuff, and I'm looking forward to you guys seeing it. To me, it's not about being better. It's about being consistent for year one. Let's see. Scuttlebutt. Why? Mick, are you from the 20s? Who uses that phrase? Oh, Bartholomew, that's just a bunch of scuttlebutt. Huh? No excuses. I'm able to like from my big screen. Tell him, Rob. No excuses. So, yeah, we'll talk a little bit about Walker. I know we spent a lot of time talking about Walker. Walker Howard's junior tape is jaw-dropping. He's got some Baker Mayfield skill set with more height. I get that comp. They are the same height. I do think Walker is more athletic, and I do think his arm is better. I know his 40 time is verified 4.7. I've heard he's run lower than 4.7. And, you know, I was talking to there you go. Thank you, Chris, for the first super chat of the night. Thank you so much, my brother. Look forward to the cup. Slidell has a strip joint called Scuttlebutt. Really? In the Dirty Dell? Appreciate you, Tommy, sharing the word of PHL. Gotta love it, man. But yeah, look. Send them one of my recruiting deep dives, my Emory Jones stuff. By the way, Emory Jones is the best player in the class of 2022. Don't at me. I know he's like ranked 7th. He's going to be the best player in this class. Now, Walker Howard's junior tape is jaw-dropping. He's got some Baker Mayfield skill set. That wouldn't be bad. I mean, Baker Mayfield was or is arguably the best college football quarterback of all time when you talk about cumulative statistics and you talk about skill set and all of that. Chris, you get to pick the next topic. Let me know. There he is. Carver's taking a break from studying. Walker's arm is better than Mayfield, but Nosa and Walker have Aaron Rodgers' ability. I don't know if either one of them is going to be that good. You know, it's funny. If I were to give Walker Howard a comp, is most definitely Tom Brady ability. Kidding. I see a lot of Russell Wilson in this game. And I do think he is a little bit better of a playmaker than people give him credit for. So yeah. Josiah, welcome to the channel, man. Everyone welcome Josiah to the channel. I think I've seen you in here before, or have I? Everyone welcome Josiah to the channel. Once again, Chris, thank you for the super chat, my brother. I appreciate your friendship as well. Let's see what we got here. Who in here said they were a LeBrandon Tofield fan? There was someone in here who said that they were a diehard LeBrandon Tofield fan. Not quite Zach. Zach is Zach Wilson's comp is actually Garrett Nussmeier. They're very similar. A lot of their strengths and weaknesses are also very similar too. I do think Walker reminds me a lot of Russell Wilson. He really does. So yeah. You don't know if Walker's arm is as strong as Russell's. I do. I think it's that good. I do. Josiah, let me know if this is your first time. I was like, first timers just feel welcome. I know it could be. I say this because a viewer who doesn't watch as much anymore said, "Hey Carter, I wanted to comment for so long. I just don't want to interrupt the flow, and everyone else is commenting, and it could be a little intimidating, right? Because if you are watching and you see your comment up on the screen, especially with the StreamYard stuff, boom, your comment is up there, your photo's up there. Don't feel shy, for real. Don't feel shy. In fact, if you're watching this now and you've yet to comment, just say hello right now. I want to see this. Just type hello in the chat. I want to see you. But Quincy Wiggins being the best in the class, I will say this physically, he is the most impressive. If you look at him, he is the first guy you want off the bus person in this class. Obviously, he had that weird accident at the with the golf cart. Looks perfectly fine. I actually probably feel bad for the golf cart because Quincy Wiggins is an alien. Like, he is a freak of nature. He looks like one of those Georgia. He looks like one of those Georgia defensive linemen. And by the freaking way, did you see? I know we're supposed to just focus in on LSU, but I had a tweet earlier today that said Georgia's defensive line is as deep as LSU's 2019 wide receiver room. Like, that's crazy what they did. They have arguably the three best defensive linemen in this draft. And Jordan Davis, at 340 pounds, ran a 4.8. That is unfreaking believable. In fact, there's this guy on Twitter named Math Bomb who does this like speed score adjusted for your weight, your height, your arm length, and all of that. Only Calvin Johnson graded out as a higher athlete than Jordan Davis. There have been 18,000 athletes at the NFL Combine this guy has evaluated. Jordan Davis has the tied for the highest score with Calvin Johnson. That is a freak of nature. Can you imagine being 340 pounds and running a 4.8? That's crazy. That's faster than Jameis Winston. That's faster than Patrick Mahomes. Jordan Davis is a faster 40-yard dasher than Patrick Mahomes. It's crazy. 4.87. It's still ridiculous. If you're 300, that's so fast. That is so freaking fast. Again, Jordan Davis, get a 3-star kid and coach him up. Huh? Jordan Davis is a beast. I give him that. Quincy Wiggins is a beast. He ate a car and bounced back up like nothing. I don't see any college LT stopping him once his football IQ is enhanced. And to go even one step further, Kyle, I think where he is going to eat is pass rushing against a guard. I think what they're going to do is they're going to put him at DT and let him rush some. Maybe not next year, but down the road. But we'll see. He's a freak, though. I'm looking forward to seeing him, Roy, and Mason Smith being the 3 down linemen in a 3-4, and then BJ playing that edge. Or if you're on a 4-man front, you could still do a 4-man front with those 4 guys. Ali Gay mixed in there as well. Maybe we see some Bryce Langston next year. Maybe we see Savion Smith take that next step. Wiggins is built like Captain America. Yeah, he's a freak, man. He is a freak. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Jordan Davis is it's truly unicorn stuff. think that was the best athletic performance at a combine since Calvin Johnson. It's crazy. It's crazy. I like it. Savion Jones getting some love in here. Savion Jones is going to feel so, it's going to be so good. You're going to forget Chaz Preston said no to LSU. He'll have a spot. Daculus did have a good combine, 5.12. I would not have guessed that. TDP had a good combine too. Ran 4.5. Also at 212. Now, before we get back into current LSU stuff, I will say this. There's this account that I follow called Tracking Football. They always had TDP rated as one of their best athletes in college football, like just pure athleticism. And you wouldn't think that, right? Because, just watching him, on tape, he wasn't the same level of athlete as a Fournette or even Jeremy Hill. It didn't look like it, but TDP is a really good athlete. I give him a lot of credit, and I hope he goes really high in the draft. Dare Rosenthal also ran a really fast time, but we won't talk about him too much. TDP is just a height, in my opinion. So let's talk about the LSU running back room. How about it? Chris was our last super chat, so we'll talk about the LSU running back room. Look, for me, obviously, I was a big TDP guy. When Corey Kiner was running better than him, he was running against very tired defenses in the third and fourth. And I did a video where it said, should Corey Kiner be the RB1? And I said, look, he's running better right now, so you should think about it. But that next week, TDP had a pretty solid game versus Mississippi State. And then we started running better blocking schemes. And this has been proven by a few analytic guys that the holes the offensive line creates matters way more than the running back running through them. So once we started better running schemes, we saw TDP starting to play better. Now, TDP will forever be remembered for the record-breaking Florida game. It was really good, but there were a lot of LSU running backs that would have run through those holes. And I think Tyrann Mathieu actually got in trouble with a tweet that said Fournette with those holes would have ran for whatever. And it wasn't a disrespectful thing. It was just him telling the truth. And I'm trying to remember, was it Tyrann Mathieu or was it someone else? Either way, that was a really good game from TDP, but a lot of running backs would have broken the record. What really impressed me was his game versus Alabama, right? His Alabama game was very good. Ran for over 100 yards with a quarterback who was playing awful. When the other team knew that you were going to run the ball, he completed some really difficult fourth down runs where he had to make guys miss. He had to cut back. He was really good in that game. Also, pass protection was really good. Now, here's the thing that kind of sucks was since he was by far our best running back, there were a lot of guys on this team that didn't get a lot of crunch time reps. And, obviously we'll see what John Emery does. We'll see what Noah Cain does. We asked Justin Vincent about this running back room. And, he kind of hinted that John Emery was going to be back. And he's going to be back, it looks like. So we'll see. Now, as far as the other guys, Corey Kiner, Armani Goodwin, Trey Bradford, the likelihood that all three of them are going to be in the room going into next year is very slim. And we'll see what happens with Josh Williams going into next year as well. And once again, no running back signed in this class. No sweat off my back, especially if you are a Trey Holly, Kylan Jackson believer. So I thought TDP was really good this year. He got better as the season moved on. He got better as the blocking schemes got better as the season moved on. And I think he's going to stay in the league. I do. Whether it be just practice squad, who cares? Get that paycheck. Now, as far as the room going into next year, my big asterisk with John Emery is his pass protection. It's bad. Now, he can have some really amazing pass protection snaps, and you're like, okay, look, that's really good, you know? And there are some other times where you're like, he didn't run the right play, and he almost got Miles Brennan killed, or almost got Max Johnson killed. So, you know, we'll see how that moves along for him. Once again, it's kind of hard to rep pass protection at the running back position. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's go to Kyle here. As far as the running back room goes, can't discount Frank Wilson's ability to coach kids up. He's got a long history of putting guys in the league. People think Frank just recruits because he's a good coach. Frank Wilson and Dan Brock love to utilize multiple running backs in their offensive schemes. I will say this, even though neither one of them had unbelievable combines, Notre Dame and Cincinnati both have running backs that will more than likely get drafted. Kyron Williams at Notre Dame, who actually ran the slowest 40-yard dash of any of the running backs, and the running back from Cincy, his name slips my mind, he will also get drafted. Jones should be RB1. Jones. I'm drawing a blank. Jones. Oh, Jerome Ford. There we go. Jerome Ford. Chris Simry is going to be RB1. I like it, man. We're at 60 votes here. Dante Moore. Oh, wow. So the next vote is going to decide this here. Dante Moore, Arch Manning, and other. It's 35% all. Oh, we got 69 viewers in here. No, it just went to 68. 247 dropped Trey Holly out of the top 250, by the way. Not a real shock. Not really a shock at all to me. I could see why people aren't on fire about Trey Holly. I could see it, right? Comes from a non-traditional power. Doesn't have just this blazing track speed. Has carried a lot of carries. It's not really that big. I get it, right? And I could see him sliding again. But he dominates. We talk about this a lot. Not high school kids dominate their competition. So, that's all you really can do. You can't really change so much about your body type, and once again, he's not done growing. So, okay. John Emery and Emory Jones. I've actually made that mistake plenty of times. I will say this, Danny, though. I do think Emory Jones will play a lot next year. That's one of my bold predictions going into next season. Emory Jones will play a lot next year if he's healthy. I just think physically he's going to be unbelievable. I really do. Noah Kane because of his story? Yeah, it was so weird. You're coming out of the same running back class as TDP and John Emery. So you got to go elsewhere. I mean, you can't be a part of a 3 running back class and be the third wheel, right? When do you start worried about carries when recruiting running backs? I don't think you do because, it's still so early in their physical development. What you do worry about, Pegasus, though, is if that running back gets a very severe injury while taking those carries. That's when you do start to get a little concerned. Now, an interesting case study with this, Pegasus, is going to be Trevante Citizen because he didn't carry the football a lot where he was. He split carries. So his junior year, I think his senior year, he was just a guy. So we'll see. But I think Trey Holly was the guy in 8th grade, which is very interesting. Oh, Danny, that shrimp fettuccine was just so good that you were in a coma and you're like just starting to tweet out all kinds of stuff. Let's go, Josiah. Corey Kiner should start. I love it. Let's see. I don't want to miss any of these here. Dan Marino would have eaten this era from a talent standpoint. Marino and Elway, Andrew Luck at the bar. Man, Andrew Luck's like the biggest what if. Dang, Emery and Kane will split reps and both get to 1,000 yards. There it is. Danny, Dellinger, Martinez, who is a better option at center? Give me the most realistic offensive line prediction. Boom. Let's do it. So I do think Miles Frazier will end up starting somewhere. You don't become an All-American tackle at a non-Power 5 and transfer to a school where you're not going to start. So I think Frazier will start at one of the tackles. Let's just say he is the left tackle. At right tackle, I know Cam Wire is going to be a very popular name, and I like Cam Wire a lot. Fitzpatrick, don't forget to email me. I want to get our guy on here. You know our guy. I've been looking at his tape too. Brother Fitzpatrick. So Danny Garvis, knows so much about football. He thinks Garrett Dellinger is going to be the starter at center. So Fitzpatrick, shoot me an email, powerhourlsu@gmail.com. Let's get this thing set up. I would love to have him on here. Now, at left tackle, let's go Miles Frazier. At left guard, I'm going to go Anthony Bradford if he is going to be on the team next year. Now, this is, the big question here. Dellinger or Martinez, who gives you the better option at center? I wouldn't count Charles Turner out of it because, he was technically the backup center. He did play some mop-up duty at center in a game versus McNeese, I believe. So I wouldn't count him out. I wouldn't count a few other guys out from this race. Danny, here's the thing. Let's just say Garrett Dellinger right now, Danny, is watching this live stream. I don't know about his full high school career. I know he's probably not watching this live stream because his younger brother is currently on a recruiting visit at LSU this weekend. I don't think Garrett Dellinger has ever played center. So that would just be a little bit of guesswork. And we won't be able to see him play center until, we get practice reports or until we actually get to see the spring game, right? Now, this is where it gets interesting right here, Danny. Tremont Shorts, the transfer from ETSU, where does he fit into this? Also, something else, Danny, is Tyler Steen is an interesting name that's currently still in the portal. He's an offensive tackle from Vanderbilt, who LSU and every school is after right now. So, that's someone else that you have to keep in mind. And then at center, I'm going to go Marlon Martinez just because he's played more the interior line than Garrett Dellinger up to this point. I do think Dellinger gives you a little bit more upside. And I'm going to go to KMC here, even though I do like the Xavier Carter. It's such a random jersey, but I love it. Is that a game-worn jersey? That's such a random jersey, Xavier Carter. So random. I want to talk about the fastest players at LSU. It's Xavier Carter and Trenton Holiday. I don't think you can fully judge a true freshman's performance going up against defensive linemen that are going to play in the NFL, right? So I can't say that Garrett Dellinger is not an SEC offensive lineman because he was a true freshman going up against DeMar Liel and all these guys are going to get drafted for Texas A&M. And they didn't really do a whole lot to help him. So I'm going to give Dellinger a pass because the week before he was really good, albeit against ULM. So I'm going to give you this offensive line here, Danny. I'm going to go left tackle Frazier, left guard Bradford, Martinez at center, Shorts at right guard, and Wire at right tackle. That would be my absolute best guess. Maybe Marcus Dumerville comes out of nowhere and he is Orlando Pace during spring football. That's obviously the guy that you have your fingers crossed for more than anyone else, right? Because he's not played a whole lot. He has played meaningful snaps when LSU went to an unbalanced line last year, when you bring in an extra offensive lineman for extra blocking purposes to put on one side of the football. He did play a lot and he was fine. He was fine. And then, of course, the most interesting name is Cardell Thomas. I don't know. I just don't think Cardell is going to be a starter next season. But once again, it's kind of like Dumerville. You're hoping to see that hype, that high-level 4-star hype actually transitions to the next level. So, this is the bottom line. If we don't get the offensive line unified and all healthy and strong, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. So we'll see. Okay. And part of this, I want to go back to this jersey is from the Peach Bowl. I want to go back to this. So Chris believes Shorts is definitely going to be right guard. Will Campbell will not start. I could say that pretty confidently. I do not think Will Campbell is ready to just start day one. I think he's really good, and I think he's going to be a 3-year starter for LSU. I just don't think he's like day one good. Not many true freshmen are day one good. They're of the true freshmen that actually exist that play at the blue chip, like SEC programs, 5% of them are ready to start day one, right? More often than not, most of them start slow, right? Kayshawn wasn't the same Kayshawn to start the year as he was at the end of the year. So it's hard. I just don't think he's gonna start. Now, the second thing I would say is I think sometimes it is good to get manhandled early in your career, because what that can relate to yourself is, holy crap, I am not good enough yet. I need to bust my butt harder than anyone else to make sure I don't get embarrassed. Because a lot of recruits that don't play, their mindset is this: I'm good enough right now, but the coach won't put me in yet. Sometimes it's good to go out there and get your butt kicked for an entire game, because you'll go in the weight room that much harder. You'll look at yourself in the mirror that much harder and say, you know what, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough right now. Getting manhandled. Sometimes that happens. Jonathan, I don't think this is Cam Robinson. Yeah, Cam was like one of the few offensive linemen that was like really good. Boom, like right off the jump. All I know is the online whisperer, Brian Kelly, one of the guys playing the best. Here we go. Let's see. Bradford is best, so if he's clean, he can play. Then he's go get Jalen Davies from Oregon. Give me the scanner report on him, Reed. I don't know a whole lot about him. I am out of Zima. So I switch to Agua. That's it's funny. Daniels is kind of built like Desmond Ritter, and they actually play a little similarly. Similarly, similarly, similar. I can't even say that. Similar. Rah, rah, rah. Huh? If Daniels joins, does Brennan stay through the spring? I don't know. I don't know. I will say this. Mike Dimbrock would look at Jalen Daniels and say, okay, that guy is more like my last guy than the new guy, if that makes sense, right? Because Mike Dimbrock had the same quarterback for 4 consecutive years, right? And going from Desmond Ritter, who wasn't like Eric Crouch or, Michael Vick. Still, Ritter gave you something as a running quarterback. So we'll see. I don't know. And look, this has always been a thing with Miles, right? Whether it be the injury that happened to him or the multiple injuries that happened to him, but really the fishing injury or whatever happened, flip-flop, fishing trip, freak story or whatever. There's always been question marks about the work ethic of Miles Brennan. It's just been there, right? Even going out and getting Joe Burrow, kind of said a few things about Miles, even though he was going into year 2 of his development still, it and how cleanly Joe won that job. So yes, Miles in his 3 games was pretty good, but there are these things, right? That's not to say Miles wasn't loved. He was on leadership council. I do think the locker room likes him a lot, and I do think he does have some intangibles, right? But there's always just kind of been can we really rely on him? It's always just existed, right? Like, for instance, with Patrick Peterson, you never have to worry about that. He's going to show up. He's going to give it 110 when he's out there. And he's going to be a leader, right? You don't have to worry about him suiting up. You didn't have to worry about him being healthy. You knew when number 7 was going to lock down his side of the field. It's just true. Nuss will transfer if he loses. So we touched on this. I won't spend too much time on it. We talked about Nuss 30 or so minutes ago, so you can rewind if you want to see it. Want to get know if you do super chat, we'll get back into Nuss convo and discourse. I will say this. I don't know if this is totally true or not. I don't. And I don't think it's a for sure foregone conclusion that he's going to transfer if he loses this job. Okay. Data says, I don't get the Jaden Daniels hype. I just don't. Lots of turnovers, but, once again, the Arizona State program is just so strange, right? With the off the field violations, and their games are always so weird. Like one week you would be like, okay, this team could be a 9 or 10 win team. And then the other week, it's all over the place. They don't show up. Some of that is indicative of the quarterback. The touchdown to interception ratio isn't the cleanest for Daniels. So let's pull this up really quickly, okay? As far as Jaden Daniels is concerned. Okay. Pull up a stat line. Let's see here. Right here. All right. 10 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. QBR is not the worst, but it's not the best. So, as you can see, he did fine versus Wisconsin. I watched this bowl game. Wisconsin had the football for the entire fourth quarter. So they didn't get many possessions in this game. Arizona's horrible. That was his best game of the year when it comes to QBR, if you don't factor in this UCLA game down here. So you see a few really good QBR games, right? 88, 94, 90, and you see you got this BYU loss. That's a tough place to play, and they were really good this year at Oregon State. So you see here, one of his biggest weaknesses was playing on the road, right? But for the most part, these QBRs, yeah, you see a bunch of 30s and whatnot, but for the most part, these numbers aren't the worst. They're not necessarily the best either. No 300-yard passing games. But where things get really interesting here for Daniels is the running aspect of it. So you see right here, didn't look good right there, but still, look at all these 40-yard rushing games, right? He gave you a lot on the ground with his legs. So yeah, it's very interesting. Look, I mean, there were more games where you had a run of 20 yards or more than not, which is really impressive. No, I mean, it's better than Nuss, because you had such a small sample with Nuss. Johnny 5. Can't say this enough. Well, Danny, ASU was a mess. They were a mess of a program with their sanctions and a lot that was going on behind the scenes. The fans kind of lost interest too. It was very, very, very strange. But yeah, the 10 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, not necessarily something you would like to see. Look, 9 times out of 10, the system makes the quarterback successful. I would agree with this if you said running back. I don't agree with this with quarterback. Now, there are some systems where it's easier to play quarterback, such as, Kyle Shanahan's system, or, Sark, when he was the offensive coordinator, could scheme a lot of guys open, right? And obviously, for a lot of quarterbacks, who they have surrounding them is a big deal. But I do agree, Arizona's your main point is still is still the truth, Kyle. A system can ruin a quarterback, right? System can't make you throw picks. Well, sometimes it can, right? You guys won't ever see me at this point say I was a big Max Johnson believer. Johnny and Gail. But I would be the first to tell you that he wasn't put in the absolute best spot to succeed. Now, what's very interesting about Max Johnson in particular is, to me, he's going from one of the worst play callers in the SEC West. And I give Jake Peetz some sympathy from the mess that was at Orgeron last year. But you go from that to Jimbo Fisher, who is a mess. Who's a mess of a play caller, Jimbo. So, yeah. But I'm not sure if this is apples to apples, though. If he's throwing 10 picks in the weak Pac-12, SEC defenses are going to eat him up. Yeah, your competition is going to get better. But, don't you think Brian Kelly's coaching would help? I understand Brian Kelly is not a quarterback whisperer. He's not Lincoln Riley. But the one thing his quarterbacks did a really good job of is not turning the football over. So, I think a better playbook would do him some better. But here's what I'll do. I'll go look at Jaden Daniels again. Look at what he did this year. Obviously, that was just a quick look of his ESPN stats. Once again, those, they aren't good. But to me, these just aren't the worst. Once again, Wisconsin had the football for the entire fourth quarter. He didn't get a chance to get the ball back in this game. Arizona's bad. Oregon State, that's a bad performance. Washington, though, on the road. You could just see, though, his biggest weakness was performing on the road, right? At home, he was fine. But on the road, he would have issues. But you see here, you have this Utah performance. Utah was the best team in the Pac-12 this year, 20-31, 237, 2 tutties, and no picks. And he also had a rushing touchdown. That's on the road against Utah. Also, he avoided playing Oregon this year, which obviously helps him out. But still, this to me is just not great, but it's not bad. It's not bad. So we'll see. Let's see here. I'm having some fun tonight. Let's go. Reads at Elias Ricks High School. Oh, the corner from Oregon. I'll go check him out. Write that down.
Here, buddy.
Well,
I'm talking to Delaney about our concert. Love you. Bye.
this didn't get as good of a chill as I thought it was going to get. This isn't chilled. It's got good chill. I normally like alcoholic beverages to have a good freeze to it. Not quite frozen, but I like to have like when you drink it, just a few ice chunks in there. Just a few. Obviously not frozen stiff, but just a few chunks. I just want a few chunks. Speaking of chunks, Chunky is an underrated Bruno Mars song. Just iffy if he can cut it here. Yeah, here's my thing though, is like, I mean, do we for sure? Okay, Dante Moore won the poll. Very interesting. Dante Moore better than Arch. I would also say Daniels. I don't know. I'd have to go back and reevaluate. Let's do this. Let's do this one right here. Do Coleman, welcome to the channel. Why the video thumbnail Buck Fama? Well, we played Alabama today in basketball. Once again, that's the only reason. Buck Fama. I'm actually not one of those. Alabama's the worst thing ever, and I hate it. I'm not one of those kind of LSU analysts or vloggers or anything like that. I trust you. I've visited Tuscaloosa plenty of times. It's actually a pretty cool place. They got good food. They got a beautiful campus. They have some really cool traditions there too. And Bryant-Denny Stadium is a great place to consume a college football game. Oh, you're an Alabama fan? Well, there you go. I'm not really that kind of person. I just like saying Buck Fama. Part of it is because I did a tailgating video, and there was like this. There were so many Buck Fama shirts at the 11 game. It's crazy. But yeah, it was just. And look, let's be honest here. LSU Alabama is always going to be about football. But both of our basketball programs are kind of in the same spot, right? There is some history, but there's really not really any history with Alabama Alabama basketball, right? There's Antonio McDyess, isn't that right? But there's really not a whole lot of history with Alabama basketball. With LSU basketball, there is some history, right? Shaquille O'Neal, Pete Maravich, Chris Jackson, Rudy Macklin, Bob Pettit. So, it's a little bit different. But both of our programs are in the same spot where we're not really basketball schools. Latrell Sprewell. Yeah, it's the same thing as LSU. LSU. My first super chat. Enjoying the content, Carter. Any deep dives on Joe Sloan and the LA Tech offense based on Dibrock's history show Sloan may be the primary offensive play caller sooner than we think. Yeah. I can see that. I also can see this, Leonard. Once again, Leonard, shoot me an email, powerhourlsu@gmail.com, and I am going to send you a Jamarcus Russell auto. I love getting away my LSU cards. Also, kind of funny. I'm also a big Jerry Jeudy believer with the Broncos. I am a Jeudy believer. I know he's not as good as Justin Jefferson, but I am a believer. Also, what was it? Robert Ory. Robert Ory is who I was thinking of. But did Antonio McDyess, where did Antonio McDyess go? This is bothering me now. See what you did, Coleman? He did go to Alabama. Okay. There you go, Leonard. His first ever super chat. Round of applause for Leonard. I think everybody's favorite quarterback is Joe Burrow. But if you put Joe Burrow aside, I would say I'm a J. Russ guy. I guess I would say I'm a J. Russ guy who is also from Alabama. But yeah, Leonard, you get to pick the next topic. So once again, when I say Buck Fama, I'm not actually saying F Bama. It's just like an LSU thing. I'm also not one that gets like too mudslinging into the rivalry. It's just hard for me to do that. But at the same time, kind of like when Jay Hill jumped on here, I would never play for LSU and transfer to Alabama. Okay. Like Elias Durant did. I'm kidding. But still, the weirdest thing. And Leonard, you get to pick the next topic. Oh, okay. This is your topic right here. I'll say this. The weirdest thing, all right, is the Georgia wide receiver transferring from Georgia to go play for Alabama, who you just beat in the title game. I get it. You go play for the better quarterback. But if you're Stetson Bennett, you're like, hold on, Jermaine Burton. You actually played a lot. And I threw you some really good passes. And I'm still not good enough for you? Really? Do what you want to do. I'm all for athlete movement. But those two transfers is kind of strange. It's kind of strange. Now, super chat. Leonard, thank you so much. Once again, super chats helps you pay the rent, baby. Any deep dives on Joe Sloan and the LA Tech offense based on Denbrock's history? Sloan may be the primary offensive play caller sooner than we think. So, first thing here is the one thing I'll say about Louisiana Tech's offense at this point is Joe Sloan had major quarterback issues at Louisiana Tech. So they had a rotating door. Now, I was able to catch a decent amount of Louisiana Tech versus Mississippi State. I was, in fact, in Ruston for part of that game. And what was very interesting was, they should have won that game versus Mississippi State to start the season. They choked the game away. Now, as far as Louisiana Tech's offense is concerned, it was fine. Once again, I haven't really looked at their yard per play data, but just reading what everyone else has said about Joe Sloan, it's pretty positive stuff. It is interesting, though, that you go from that at Louisiana Tech to now potentially being the play caller at LSU. So, yeah. Now, the second thing I'll say is this. As far as Joe Sloan is concerned, yeah, we are going to do a deep dive and we are going to look at his offense. But I do think when he interviewed for the job, part of the questions were, will you do what I want to do offensively? And that's Brian Kelly asking Joe Sloan. So he's going to probably be doing more molding to what they want to do than vice versa. So, I don't know how much Joe Sloan's influence will be on the LSU offense. Obviously, being the quarterback coach, you're going to have a lot of influence on the offense. There's also quite a few of you that don't like the offensive coordinator to not actually be the quarterback coach. It is kind of a strange thing. 90% of the time, your quarterback coach is going to be your offensive coordinator and vice versa. Whereas Mike Denbrock is the tight ends coach, along with being the offensive coordinator. It is a little bit unorthodox. Now, this would be my second thing, Leonard, as far as Joe Sloan is concerned. He is younger. He does provide some youth into the offense, but I don't think Joe Sloan is a guy that I could see being the eventual play caller, who I think, Leonard, you might see actually be eventually the play caller is Cortez Hankton. This is a guy who just interviewed for the Rams, right, to be their offensive coordinator. Okay. Now, do you think they are just interviewing Cortez Hankton just to interview him? The defending Super Bowl champions, they might have. They might have just interviewed him just to interview him because he was just a national championship wide receivers coach, and Georgia produces a lot of good wide receivers. I get it. So it is what it is. Now, I think Cortez Hankton could have more play calling say. I could see it. Is the passing game coordinator title just a title? Or are you actually going to be more involved in the passing game? We'll see. Bama lives in y'all's head 24/7. LOL. Bama had plenty of players transfer and some to teams they will play next year. Bama fans are talking about it. We worried about our team. LOL. I think Bama's in everyone's head because they are the program. So to say that they're in my head 24/7 or anybody's head 24/7, some of that's true. Some of that's true, right? Because they are the best team. I mean, they almost won the national championship with their two best wide receivers sidelined in what should have been a rebuilding year, the year after Saban's arguably his best team ever. They're the best. They recruit the best. They're coached the best. Touche to them. So that's like saying LeBron James is in your head 24/7. Yeah, because he's been the best player in the NBA for 2+ decades. But I don't necessarily think about Bama nonstop. I do mostly focus just on LSU. And Bama did have a lot of players transfer to other teams, right? Like Drew Sanders, who was a decent linebacker for them going to Arkansas, and so on and so on. Now, the part of this that is not true is Bama fans aren't talking about them. I go on Twitter, I don't see Bama fans not talking about, well, if Jamison Williams didn't get hurt, and they're still talking about the Georgia game. So, to say that any team lives in someone else's head 24/7, some people are obsessed with just beating Alabama. So there is some truth to that. I don't, but, Bama's a gold standard. Georgia just got lucky. When they had 3 defensive linemen run sub 5 flat 40s, some of the best 40-yard dashes. George Pickens is about to slide in the first round. And one of the best offensive lines in the country. The best true freshman tight end in the country. Nakobe Dean won the butt kiss. They just got lucky. Really? Come on, Coleman. You're better than that. You're better than that. Georgia didn't get lucky. They were the best team from start to finish this year. I will say this. I did bet Bama in the SEC championship game. I thought Bama was going to win that game because all the pressure was on Georgia. But Georgia didn't get lucky. They were the best team. They were the best team. Well, Ed, I'm the best YouTuber on the planet. I'm better than Marcus Brownlee. I'm better than iJustine. I don't know why I just picked those two YouTubers. They are really good. I'm better than Logan Paul. Ha, 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 ha. Bama Week does get intense. We do have a lot of Bama subscribers. We do. I'm not just saying that, right? Who is it? He lives in Birmingham. And he played college football. Crap, what was his name? He used to always be in here. He hadn't been in here in a while. I have to go back and look at all the old comments. Oh, I agree, Pegasus. I do think if Bama has Jamison Williams, they have a better shot of winning that game, right? But the woulda, coulda, shoulda becomes a slippery slope, right? Because then Bama would say, "Well, if George Pickens was fully healthy for the SEC championship game, we would have been better off." That's where the slippery slope begins to happen, right? So I will say Bama did have worse injury luck. A lot of their defensive backs were hurt, and they still almost won versus Georgia's best team. Give Bama a lot of credit for doing that. They have the best coach to ever do this. So, yeah, there is some truth in that. But it didn't happen. The games happen. So, it is what it is. Now, we are approaching 2 hours. And you guys know what we do around the 2-hour mark. In the next 5 minutes, I'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. If not, but excuse me, I said that wrong. If you do super chat, we'll keep this party moving all night. So there you go. Thanks again to our top super chatters tonight. Chris and Danny holding it down, along with Leonard, our first time super chatters. I really appreciate you guys. All right, Tommy, no more LSU baseball updates. You're making everybody sad in here. What is it? Texas is the best team this year? Post Augie Garrido, Texas? So here we go. Rapid fire. If you want to ask an LSU basketball question, I'll answer it. Wasn't able to catch the game though. I was able to watch some on my phone. I wasn't really able to watch the end though. Auburn. Auburn's a basketball school now. They should just lean into it. Right? Just lean into it. Go all in and become the basketball school of the West. Even though there are no divisions in SC basketball still. Johnny! Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Johnny's going night-night. I really appreciate you, my friend. I'm looking forward to meeting you a little bit later this summer. Bama Week is still the funnest. It really is. Softball beat ULL 5-2 tonight for some good news. Betarina, the Fighting Betarinas. I get to call a softball game on the radio once. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, any LSU related stuff. As far as basketball is concerned, yes, there was some patented Will Wade sloppiness at the end of that game. I heard that there was a foul at midcourt or whatever. the thing is, and this is a sad thing about college basketball, is everyone's making a big deal that North Carolina just beat Duke. It's really not that big a deal, right? The games played on your home court aren't that big a deal, right? Uh Actually, I gotta shout out Leonard, first time super chatter Leonard. To the Bama fans in the chat tonight, don't forget Saban and Kirby learn to coach ball at LSU. LOL. Huh? But the truth is, what makes college football so great is these regular season games that are played on campus matter so much, right? Whereas in college basketball, they do matter, but ultimately they don't, right? Because you play this conference tournament mostly on a neutral site, and then you then play the NCAA tournament. What my dream would be is the conference tournament games don't really matter that much at all, right? Make the games matter more on campus. I also think we should make a far bigger deal about regular season conference championships, because it is tougher to be a regular season conference champion in college basketball than it is to even make an Elite Eight or Final Four even. It's really hard because you got to do it over the course of a season. So, you know, I wish the games mattered more on campus. Duke lost to North Carolina tonight. Big deal. They beat them in Chapel Hill, 20 points. They'll probably play each other in the conference tournament. So, LSU beating Alabama today was really good. You protect your home court. But the four best teams in this conference lost a combined once at home. It's so hard to win at someone else's place, right? And that's why, LSU losing to Ole Miss the way that they lost to Ole Miss earlier this year was a big deal, and losing some of these games that they should not have lost. So the good news is with this win today, I think you should feel pretty good about LSU getting into the NCAA tournament. And at this point, that's all that really matters, right? Of course, you want to avoid getting that 8 seed. That's always a bad seed, that 8 or 9. I would prefer a 10 over an 8 or 9, but still. That's true. That's true. Tommy, all right, are you getting this, Danny? Tommy is saying Delhi's going to be the new center. Carter, are you for or against playoff expansion? To me, expanding takes away what makes college football special, which is every game has to matter. So, look, if you're an Alabama fan, you want expansion, right? Because Nick Saban is never going to lose more than 1 or 2 games. And a 2-loss Nick Saban team is always going to get into the playoff. So that's why you should not want expansion. I would prefer to only have to beat Nick Saban once and move along with my life, right? That was a big deal about 2019 LSU, is that once we beat Alabama, it was over for them. They were done, right? It was impossible for them to come back because we weren't going to lose to Ole Miss, Arkansas, Texas A&M. We were going to win at least 2 out of those 3 games. Even if Miles Brennan was a quarterback, we probably would have won all 3 of those games. So, that's a good thing. You want that regular season game to count so much. That's what makes it so great. Now, as far as expansion is concerned, I think expansion does some good things, right? The first thing is expansion. Let's just say you expand to 8 or 12 for the playoff. As far as the national, audience, that would make it easier for a Pac-12 school to get in, which is good for West Coast, Miami to get in, or any of these ACC schools to make sure that they always have a team in the playoff. It would allow more brains to get in. But the thing is, for us, the people like you that are college football diehards, That's not good. We don't care. Like, we still love the sport, even though USC and Texas and Nebraska or Tennessee, they're not all awesome. It's not that big a deal. We're gonna love this sport no matter what. So expansion does good for that. Like, there would be less opt-outs with college football expansion. But then again, I would just prefer to keep things the way that they are. I think a 16 playoff would be an absolute perfect number. 8, I don't like because you're not, once again, that I want the best teams in college football to be rewarded. I want those 1 and 2 seeds to get buys. So at that point, I would kind of prefer a 12 over, or even a 10 over an 8. So there you go. So KMC, the exact opposite of this is true, because we can get a second crack at the title. Imagine we lose a close one to Bama and get a chance for revenge. So think of it the other way, though, right? The likelihood, especially with how the conference is now, okay, the likelihood that we get to a rematch is lower than Alabama. Number one, they have a better coach, right? They also get to play Tennessee every year. And once again, Tennessee could be a better program than Florida. I think they are now with where both the programs are now. But it used to be Alabama had a huge advantage because they got to play Tennessee every year and we have to play Florida every year. Also, you don't like Nick Saban is going to get in the playoff, right? LSU might beat Nick Saban, but he's not going to lose again, right? How many times in the past 5 years has Nick Saban lost 2 games? Once, and that was in 2019, right? So, you don't want that. You don't. And the thing is, even in 2019 with a 12-team playoff, Alabama still could have gotten in after losing to Auburn. So that's the thing. You don't want that. You do not want that. You want those regular season games to count. LSU had the most veteran offense in the SEC for sure. Yeah, they at skill, guys, maybe, but not on the offensive line. Lots of new bodies there. Okay. As good teams can lose to good teams, should every team with the loss be excluded from playoff contention? Why should an undefeated team with a weak schedule be in and us with 1 loss be out? Well, which weak undefeated team got into the playoff, right? Um, don't say Cincinnati, right? Cincinnati would not have gotten into the playoff if Oklahoma State had their running back, who ironically is a friend of mine. If their running back would have had a half a more inch and scored that touchdown in the Big 12 championship, Cincinnati still wouldn't have gotten in. So Cincinnati, it took a miracle for them to even get into the playoff, right? Teams with weak schedules that go undefeated, the non-Power 5 teams never get in anyway. So yeah, Carter, you should do all LSU sports. Yeah, just keep it LSU football. I'll tell. Here's what I'll do, Johnny. I'll get. I ironically do have a lot of people with immense college basketball knowledge, immense college basketball betting knowledge as well. So I'll get them on before March Madness to help fill out brackets and all that. So yeah. Why do we want it to be easy to get in? You don't want it to be easy. You don't. Right? And I understand. It sounds good in theory. We want to get another crack at Nick Saban because he beats us so much. But the exact opposite is true. Because let me ask you this. Would you rather beat Nick Saban during the regular season or at a neutral site playoff game where he really is nearly unbeatable, right? He's never been blown out in that scenario, right? The last time I think in a neutral site playoff game where his team was just blown off the radar was when Utah beat them in the Sugar Bowl. At least all the other games were competitive. He also lost to that Trevor Knight Oklahoma team. I was at that Sugar Bowl. I covered that Sugar Bowl. But yeah, sure, it would be nice to get a rematch against Saban. But I prefer the other thing. I'd prefer to just try and beat them, especially considering now, we've played them well in Tuscaloosa. We've been better in Tuscaloosa than we've been at home. Danny, Oh man, I'll say this. Oh man, the Bobby Knight incident. I still think about it. It's still the most insane thing. Let's discuss how we believe the new pods will look once Texas and Oklahoma comes to the NCC. Does LSU and Alabama stay in the same pod? I doubt it, but I'm not sure if they go to the pod system. Let's see. But to KMC's point, this is true, right? It does help with the opt-outs if you expand the playoff. Does LSU and Alabama stay in the same pod? I don't know, Chris. Obviously the pod system would be most ideal, but I'll say this as far as like these TV contracts and all of that is concerned. I just don't know how that's all going to work out. I just don't. So yeah. Boom. This was fun. I normally like these off-season live streams because you really got to love LSU football to hang out here and talk and chat for 2 hours. I love it, man. I love you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And we will be back on Tuesday. So let's see. What do we have coming up? We got a lot of good things coming up. So if you are, we have had a lot of SEC fans from other schools in our chat tonight. So that is obviously some really good news because I am starting an SEC only channel where, I talk about Alabama. I talk about Texas A&M. Obviously this channel is going to, stay the same. But I want to do some other SEC content. I am very fascinated by A&M, Bama, Arkansas, Florida. I think Billy Napier is doing some very interesting things. And, the most interesting thing about what he's doing there is, as LSU fans, if it does work out, you're always going to be like, well, what could have been, right? Because we could have had him. Could have had him. So, yeah. We'll see you Tuesday night, baby. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! Shout out to Leonard. Shout out to Danny. Shout out to Chris. Shout out to Johnny 5, our top super chatters tonight. And tonight we're doing tacos, baby. It's a taco Saturday. Let's go. Let's go. I want to hit the right thing. This is it.